Love Life, featuring your hosts Rebecca Detman and Jane Donovan.
The sun shines bright as it moves across my face. I feel the light.
If it feels good, it's good. If it feels bad, it's bad.
Welcome to Love Life. I'm Rebecca Detman.
And I'm Jane Donovan.
It feels very good here though, doesn't it, Jane?
It does feel good.
It's really good right now. We hope that in your cars and in your, wherever you're jogging through parks or listening at your desk or in your bedroom, wherever you join us today, that you're feeling good too. And we're going to invite you to go deep inside your own personal space today, because we are going to ask you to get real with how you're feeling in order to know the truth. Truth is in inverted commas there. We had a message here from a listener who said, what about an episode about how to know if someone is right for you? I've been with my current boyfriend for 4 years, and yet I still feel unsure if our differing temperaments can be compatible and lead to success and happiness. She's put this in capitals. How do you know if something is right for you? Now, I mean, she's used the example of a someone, but often it will be a something, or it will be a job, or it will be something maybe even not so big as a relationship or a job. It could just be a food choice in a restaurant. I don't know about you, Jane, but I've met people who are paralysed, for example, in shops about which pair of shoes to buy. They literally,
in case they make a mistake,
they cannot make the decision. Yes. So we wanted to talk today about knowing what is quote unquote right for you, knowing what is quote unquote true or best for you, and how to deal when perhaps the decision you make doesn't work out the way that you'd planned.
So much to say, Beck.
There is
so much to say.
There actually is a lot.
There's a lot. Look, the first thing I really want to say is that there's no guarantees in life. There are none. And so you can't protect yourself from anything, really. If you are so hung up on things being right, you will paralyse yourself and you'll be incapable of making a decision. As far as relationships go, which is where this lady has asked, how does she know if he is right for her? You don't. All you know is he right for you right now? And in fact, I often use that, you're looking for Mr. Right now, or you're looking for Mr. Right? And there's not a whole lot of difference. We've evolved, we change. You don't know how you're going to evolve and grow and change. You don't know how the other person is. In any situation, you don't know how it's going to evolve and change. Work, I mean, that's an energy. A business, that can evolve and change. Friendships evolve and change. We can't control any of this, and nor should we try to. What we can do, however, is know what is right for me right now. And if you are a conscious person, which, let's face it, Beck, all our listeners are, then you've got a good idea of what is right for you. When I say for now, it's likely to be for a reasonable period of time. And I have said this for years, that even my own beautiful husband, I can't guarantee that he's not going to walk in the door at some point in the future and say, I never expected this, I didn't want this to happen, but I'm out of here. I can't live my life with that fear hanging over my head. All I can do is live in the joy of it feels right, and that's where we're at.
I once counselled someone for 6 months or longer while she was engaged to be married. Or was it even before? It doesn't matter. It was either to do with getting the ring on the finger or walking down the aisle, but it's same. And because she was so paralysed about, they were totally in love and they had a great relationship, but she was really, really paralysed about it, about what if I make a mistake? And it's kind of this idea that we do have a forever, isn't it? Which is, I have to say, I think it's a very old world idea. I think that we did used to live in a world where
you made your bed, you lie in it.
Things, even the way society was structured, like you have one job for 70, 50, whatever years, then you get a gold watch and you retire. Things were guaranteed for life. If you bought a refrigerator, the old fridges, they never break down. They just run and run and run and run, like the old ones from the 50s will still run in your little, garage. Whereas now, everything that you buy within the warranty, just after warranty, it's expired and you've got to go chuck it in the landfill and get another one. It is a different world now, but a lot of people haven't made that mental shift of, in the old days, you married for life. Even come hell or high water, no matter what was happening in that household, you did not leave that man, or you did not forsake that family, you did not ruin your reputation. As like I said, people stayed in one job their whole life. So, I mean, I think we've had to make a break from thinking about things in these absolute extremist long haul sort of terms.
Well, yeah, people did make mistakes, didn't they, in relationships? Or if you, we don't say it's a mistake. People chose somebody and life evolved and changed, and that person was no longer suitable for them, and they would stay in a toxic relationship for another 40 years.
Absolutely, and that was history. And for a lot of the time, there weren't welfare or services or places people could go if they needed out. They just stayed. Now, in this day and age, we live in a hugely transition, like fluid, everything changing world. And we know this by looking at our young people, because to them it is so normal to chop and change fashion, haircuts, hobbies, friends, jobs, uni degrees, like plans. Because, you know, back in my day, because I'm ancient, Jane.
That makes me a restored fossil.
I would say to somebody, I will meet you at 3 o'clock outside such and such a shop, and you would just both be there. Whereas these days I watch how nobody worries about a plan or sticks to a plan or honours a plan, because phones mean that they don't have to be plans. You live in the now moment. Now, that's actually a spiritual concept, to just kind of live moment by moment, but it can be incredibly frustrating for those of us with old school values that like to plan our diaries a week in advance. Now, what has all this got to do with how do you know if something is right for you? I'm giving you guys permission to realise that I just love what Jane said at the start here. It is about the moment. Is it right for you in this moment? If you wake up tomorrow morning and change your mind, that is your prerogative as a human being. You actually have the human right to change your mind. It's such a small concept, but it's such a huge one, because it's so hooked in to people pleasing and needing to be liked.
I've coached so many clients in the last couple of months that are going through separations and divorces. In fact, it's been abnormally high. Hello, 2016, year of 9 endings. And the common theme with many of them is, I have a right to happiness. And so if you don't believe that, then you are setting yourself up where you have to make the right decision for the rest of your life. And I hope you're a really good fortune teller and you know what the future's going to happen, because otherwise you can't guarantee that. But the other thing is, we did a podcast back a long time ago on how to say no.
Yeah.
Because when you know how to get out of something, when you know how to exit something, you can have greater confidence saying yes to something. Now, of course, big decisions like getting married, you know, borrowing hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy a home, having babies, you know, they're big things that it's not kind of as easy to get out of. However, a lot of knowing what's right for you is knowing that if it's right now, but it becomes not right later, what's my exit plan? How would I exit this? It's almost where, you know, some people these days have very elaborate prenups that actually talk about when they're in a really good place in a relationship. How do we exit this relationship if one or both choose to exit it? And so you actually make it in a respectful way. And it's not just about money, it's about everything that's important. So it's knowing your exit strategy when you go into something in certain situations can actually help you to be able to feel greater confidence in the right.
Yeah. And I think underneath all of this, what's being asked of you here is to have a very honest relationship with your own soul, and it's to not lie to yourself or try and convince yourself or try and choose the party line, such as, oh, but I really should because all my friends have, or I really should because my mum will be so proud of me, or I really should because I don't want to rock the boat, or I really should because I want to keep him happy, or I really should because whatever reason. I need the money, or we will always have thousands of excuses, but that is called lying to yourself. If you actually sit with your own body on a decision, and you'll find with decision making, it's usually in the stomach. You know, the heart has a lot to say about it. You can feel it in your heart. But if it's not right, your guts will know. It's the hunch. It's that lower down, churning, not quite right, something's not really aligned, it's not really congruent, it doesn't quite fit, there's some kind of red flag there. Maybe your brain can't explain it, but your body knows. Because when it comes to the really big decisions in life, like do I stay, do I go, should I marry him, should I not, should we have a baby, should I start a business, the really big things, you're not ever going to find the answer by writing out a pros and cons list. You're not going to find the answer by talking to your friends. You're not going to find the answer by Googling it or reading a self-help book. The answer is going to come from being brutally honest with the truth of how you actually feel about it in your guts.
It's hard for some people to get that honesty, isn't it? Because it affects so many other people, or because, as you said, the stereotypical roles. In fact, we just recently did a podcast on, married at this age, or engaged at this age, married at that age, have babies, paid off mortgage, retire at this age. It's that same pressure thing.
Yeah.
I've got another little tip, though, that I think's a good one, which is not that particularly spiritual, but it seems to work, and it's the 80-20 rule. If you are feeling happy 80% of the time about a given situation and 20% unhappy, I think that's pretty good. That's pretty right for you. You've got 80% of pleasure and you've got 20% of what is it that you can learn. Because remember, whenever things are not going right, that's when the best wisdom can be learnt. It's when the best soul growth, it's the expansion of self, it's the knowing of self, the greater self-awareness, self-love. And so when somebody says, is any situation right? I would say, as far as on a spiritual level, every situation is right. Because every situation is going to teach you more about yourself.
So we want to take the emphasis here off of the idea that anything could ever be wrong. What if I marry this guy and it's the wrong path? What if I missed out on marrying the right guy? That's a big thing. That's a big thing in our society.
Deal it. Bigger, better, deal it.
What if I make the wrong choice and I suffer because of my own choice? Well, so what? That's what I want to ask. Yeah, you will. And you'll be richer in wisdom because of it. We need to stop fearing the hard road. I think we're starting to live in a cotton wool society where we want to buy the promise that everything is always going to be cushioned and safe and easy and least resistance and all of that and fine and flowing if we just, chant and get spiritual and do our manifestations and, listen to your heart and follow it. Well, often when you listen to your heart, you go through the hardest, darkest journey. But that's okay because that's the way through. That's to get to where you need to be. It's not always just going to be fairies and butterflies and angels singing, listening to your heart or listening to your gut. Sometimes it appears like World War III's hit you when you action that stuff. But the dust does always settle. And you do always, always come out the other end feeling like it wasn't for nothing. At the very least, and on the best end of the spectrum, feeling like you gained some serious soul growth and spiritual gifts.
And if you're like me and believe 100% in what Becca's just said, then when the tough stuff comes, I'm not saying I exactly get excited by it. Life is much easier when it's fluid and flowing and gracious and full of joy and peace and contentment, happiness. However, when the tough stuff comes, there's always a little bit of, I wonder what the silver lining's going to be, because there is never not a silver lining, ever.
Yeah.
Ever. But, there's some of those fun fear things, about fear is, or my favourite that I always quote is, false emotion appearing real.
Or false evidence appearing real?
No, emotion. I always say emotion.
Emotion. Okay.
Yeah. So it's, what am I feeling? I'm feeling scared. I'm scared of failure. I'm scared of rejection. I'm scared of not being good enough. I'm scared of not having enough. I'm scared of having too much, blah, blah, blah. It's always the emotion. But Beck and I've often seen a few other ones, and Beck's Googled a few here that I think are really cute. I love the false evidence appearing real as well. So mine was always false emotion, but false evidence. And that is when you choose to be in fear, you will start to gather evidence to support your fear. When you choose to not be in fear, to believe it's right, you will start to gather evidence to support that. It's fascinating that whenever we make big decisions in life, we almost have a default mechanism. I don't know if this is subconscious doing it. I don't know quite what is happening. But I know that when a big decision is made, we are so good at gathering further evidence to support that decision after the decision has been made. It's like kind of cementing it, making it like a really right decision. Instead of it just being the right one, we want it to be the really, 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 really right decision.
Yeah.
So we gather this evidence. You know, it's like, it's hard. You choose, oh, well, I remember choosing schools for my children. I spent 12 years choosing schools for my children.
Yeah.
And it really came down to the 11th hour because I could not find the actual education place that I wanted that was right for my beliefs and my children. However, once the decision was made, I then went about gathering evidence of why that was the right decision. And I almost became the school spruiker of, you know, this is a great school. But it makes us feel at peace with our decision. And so it's a good thing to gather that evidence and then just move on.
Well, like I said to the girl that I was counselling about this getting married stuff, I just said, darling, if it doesn't work out, then you just change it. I mean, I know that sounds so easy to say, and when it's a marriage and stuff, it's a bit more full on, but there's really nothing in life that's so awful that you can't change it. Even if you're imprisoned in a jail cell, you can still change the way you think about it. Everything, you can always have some sort of a freedom response to any situation you may feel entrapped in, enslaved in, entangled in. Nothing is ever so bad that the universe is not waiting at the door to show you the way out or the way through. There will always be options for you no matter which direction you walk. And in a spiritual sense, all paths lead to Rome. There is no wrong path. You know, with as a psychic, with love, people say to me, if I psychically see a future partner who's waiting to meet them at a certain age, and they straight away the fear kicks in. Well, what if I miss him? What if it doesn't happen? What if I don't go to London after all? And you said he's in London or whatever. And it's like, it's in your soul contract. You've got to have some respect and surrender for the higher workings of this stuff. And remember, I'm not talking about God's laid it out in a tablet that he carved with a chisel. I'm saying you planned this. You chose this for yourself before you were born. This is about trust, self-trust as well. So you can end up at the same destination, even if you want to take 15 different highways to get there. You can choose to slow yourself down or go faster. How do you do that? By listening or not listening to your gut, really. And really, I think everyone who's listening to this podcast, we all know what it feels like when something is off or something doesn't feel right to us. The real problem we all need to deal with and learn to be better at handling is it's not how to feel the truth for ourselves, it's what to do when we know what the truth is and we're paralysed to act one way or the other because we're so worried about, like I said before, what people will think or how do I do this, or it's easier just to push that feeling down and ignore that red flag and I'll just stay here and keep on keeping on.
Sometimes too, people can get paralysed by, you know, is something right or wrong, by feeling like it is so black and white that it's a yes or a no and that they don't have other options. And one of the most beautiful books I read, and I can't think of the title, but I'm pretty sure it was by Viktor Frankl. He is a psychologist, psychotherapist, I think. He's actually Dr. Phil's favourite person. So that's kind of a big claim, isn't it?
Didn't he come out of Auschwitz, or is that my mistake?
Yes, he did, yeah. So he was in a German concentration camp and he observed that those who remained in positivity survived and those who didn't died. That's the short guts of it.
That's a pretty big social experiment.
Massive, well, yeah. And how do you stay positive when you are in such trauma? A very simple example he gave was every day they were given one potato. And he said he has choices. Do I eat the whole potato? Do I cut it up? Do I have half now, half later? Do I cut it into 10 pieces? Do I eat it over the whole day? Do I actually give some of it away? If I do, who am I going to give it to? Who needs it more? How much of the potato do I give away? Should I trade? Should I say, look, you're not feeling well today, so you have more of mine, and I owe you one, and so on and so on. And that is all the choices. I could go on for probably half an hour.
You could, and
about the choices.
People really buy into the belief that they are stuck or blocked or cornered. And I've been in times in my life where I have felt completely cornered, and that is where suicidal thoughts come up, which I've had. And it's when you genuinely believe, for whatever reason, that there is no other way out.
And if you like that, that's actually where you need to book in with somebody as a coach to actually get somebody outside that is detached from your emotional story and that is able to help you to see other options.
And just
and I'll do that. Like Beck and I, we do that for each other.
Something else I want to say on this note, which is a very simple thing to keep in mind as well, is we tend to be very dualistic in life about the way we look at any topic. So we tend to either be on one side or the other. It's either this or it's that, it's right or it's wrong, it's love or it's fear, it's black or it's white. We tend to sort of think there's only maybe two options to most scenarios, I stay or I go. What we perhaps need to allow the space for a little bit more is the idea of a third option. Because I think often we just tend to be quite uncreative and quite narrow, once again, in boxing ourselves in. And even like I've been guilty of this because I've done the 2-door exercise in where you sort of, you've